word from WoodWard TV. The link will be in the description. Wow, you're going to really like this one.
You all know that at times I like to discuss things of a mysterious nature. Some may think a few of these are wild ideas that many people will not touch. They won't talk about these things. It's too crazy. I talk about these things when the feeling arises. In other words, when I get excited about sharing a bit of information with you all, that is when I present it. There is no set order here. I have moments when I stand up from my chair and say, yes, I've got it. This is what they need to know right now. And more often than not, these ideas, these topics, tend to have connections in some way. And it's very interesting because if you stare at some...
Did I mention that the link will be in the description box? This is a good one. Wait till about 15 minutes in when they actually plays the recording. You're going to freak out on that one. I did.
Long enough, you may begin to see it for what it truly is. So, the topic is Egypt, and I want you all to think about something. I really want you to give it some deep thought. At what point in time did everyone just get up and leave the area along the Nile River? And I mean completely abandon it. And leave it all alone long enough so that the majority of the old and middle kingdoms would get lost and buried under the sand. What time period was this? Because why was any of this stuff allowed to get covered up in the first place? I know politics and war, right? And you are confused, I know you are. Because the whole narrative of the history over there is all over the place. You know how when you tell one lie in order to get that person to keep believing you, you have to tell another lie to support the first lie? And it just goes on until everything you say is a lie, and so is your history. That is what's been going on over there when it comes to the truth about Egypt's antiquities. There has been a picture painted for us. A delusion has been created. For many years, this delusion or false history has been ingrained in the masses to hide a certain truth. You guys ready for this? Let's talk. Now, there are a few things we have to consider. I know what's common is that when people think of the pyramids of Egypt, they automatically think of the Great Pyramid, the pyramids of Giza, right? They are just the more popular, more attractive pyramids, gassed up to attract attention and tourists. And it's taken them up until this time to identify around 120 or so of these pyramids in Egypt. At least 60 of them were identified back in the early 1800s. The Great Pyramids of Giza are like the dinosaur bones you see at a museum. It's just a skeleton. It's what remains. That's why they call them ruins. It is in Saqqara where you have what is likely the first pyramid of Egypt, the Djoser Step Pyramid. Now, Saqqara is about 30 kilometers south of Cairo, and this was the main burial grounds for the area of Memphis. Djoser is the one who was said to have built the first step pyramid of Egypt, which was left incomplete. His successor would be King Sekhemkhet, who constructed another pyramid, the buried pyramid, also left incomplete. Now, when they went down into the Djoser pyramid, see, they always try to pass these pyramids off as tombs. So what they'll say is, we're still looking for the sarcophagus. And when they find the sarcophagus, they never find a body. It's a stone block. Look, the Great Pyramid has what they call a sarcophagus, but it's just a large stone block, hollowed out and concreted into the floor. Looking at this does not speak sarcophagus to me. The lackluster design, the positioning. The sarcophagus of Dozer, it's not even a sarcophagus. It's a structure in what they call the burial chamber. It's a few stone blocks that look like they were stacked around something. The sarcophagus of Sekhemkhet. Now, this sarcophagus has the most bizarre design for what is supposed to be a coffin or sarcophagus. I mean, it has no lid, just a sliding door on the side. What is that? Again, they found this and found no body. But, they pull these shenanigans all the time. The Serapeum of Saqqara, where they discovered several giant sarcophagi, nothing in them. But they say they were made for mummified bulls, trying to get us to believe that they were such strong bull worshippers that they built the best sarcophagi for these bulls, right? See, they had this minister of antiquities, an Egyptologist, Zahi Hawass. Do you know what his job was? His job was to seek out and cover up the truth about ancient Egypt. So anytime a real scientist over there discovers something, here he comes to debunk the whole thing. And he and his organization either buried the discovery or under concrete, or they destroyed it. They removed remains, they repaint and recarve some of the art, they lie to geologists and archaeologists, often taking credit for some things that were found years ago by foreign researchers. Let me give you a good example of the standard order of procedure when it comes to archaeologists and other scientists who wanted to make discoveries under the rule of Tomb Master Zahi Hawass, or Hawass, however you want to pronounce it. He was the former Minister of Antiquities, and Mustafa Waziri is the Secretary General of Antiquities. I remember when he kicked Beyonce off his tour because she was late. I mean, I'm no fan of Beyonce, and if she was rude, she was rude. But the whole thing was ridiculous. Hawass is infamous for being a ho-asshole. So, let me use the Great Sphinx as an example of what happens when discoveries are made in Egypt. For many, many years now, several scientists have suspected that the Great Sphinx was built on top of a base foundation, like every other statue or monument, right? But as you can clearly see, they never exposed the pedestal. So we are supposed to believe that someone built this thing directly on the flat ground with no foundational pedestal. So clearly, they intentionally never dig past the base of the paws. Now, they've used radar technology like echolocation to get a better idea of what's inside and underneath it. And they have found several chambers and several entrances. How many of you know about the hole on the top of the head of the Sphinx? There's a 10-foot deep manhole at the top of the head, which was sealed off and then reinforced and reopened by Hawass. Now, the hole has a steel door sealing it off. Edgar Cayce wrote about how there is a hall of records beneath the Sphinx, which you can gain access to through the right paw. Records, he says, that were left behind by the Atlanteans. And they found cavities or chambers underneath the structure, as well as pathways, one leading from the Sphinx all the way to the second pyramid. They also found a small entrance at the base of the left rear of the Sphinx, a small cross shaft that was sealed off. The key shaft, they call it. Where does it lead? Who knows? There was one instance where Hawass was asked if he was going to open up the key shaft. His response was, "No, we have other things to do." What? Well, Robert Schoch comes along and he wants to use more equipment to investigate what's underneath the Sphinx. And Hawass decides to shut down Schoch, claiming that his research was for propaganda and not for scientific research. So as you can see, so far, anyone attempting to uncover what is underneath the Sphinx, they get shut down and the entrances get sealed off. And after all these years, they still don't want to tell us what's inside or underneath it. People have to take guesses. Now, does that make any sense at all? I mean, what's stopping them, right? Now, halfway between the Sphinx and the second pyramid, this is where they found what's called the Tomb of Osiris, or the Osiris Shaft. There is room with a shaft leading to a deeper room containing several sarcophagi, 2 of which were gigantic, which they kept trying to say were made for bulls, but that's a bunch of bull. There was nothing found in them. Then there is another shaft leading to a deeper chamber where you have these pillars surrounding a giant 12-ton sarcophagus. And of course, Hawass later states that he thinks it's nothing more than a dummy tomb for the god Osiris. Yeah, sure, that's not what he told his colleagues. I mean, people just build deep underground tombs just to throw off grave robbers, right? Just a mock tomb. Nothing to get excited about, nothing to see here, right, Hawass? A lot of people don't know that underneath that sarcophagus was another shaft, another opening. And where it goes, no one knows. Well, a few know. Hawass is a steady denier of there being anything inside or under the Sphinx. But there are dozens of photos of him entering and exiting entrances in and around the Sphinx like it's his personal man cave. But I get it. So if there is nothing in or under the Great Sphinx, what about the other one? And I know you're probably thinking, what other one? See, they don't want to talk about the other Sphinx. How many of you know that there is a mound to the left of the Sphinx where some have suspected is or was a second Sphinx because they are believed to come in pairs, do you see? As well as the Sphinx is offset to the right of the pyramid, not centered. And since these statues were placed in pairs in front of other structures as a pair of guardians, it makes sense that there should be more than one Sphinx. I mean, there is even a stone right in front of the Sphinx with 2 Sphinx on it. By the way, anyone who has attempted to investigate that mound has been denied a license. Now, is there a spaceship under the Sphinx as described in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? Here's the quote from the 5th tablet. Raised I to light, the children of Khem. Deep neath the rocks, I buried my spaceship, waiting the time when man might be free. Over the spaceship, erected a marker in the form of a lion, yet like unto man. There neath the image rests yet my spaceship, forth to be brought when need shall arise. Know ye, O man, that far in the future, invaders shall come from out of the deep, and that is what concerns me the most, not so much the spaceship. Then awake, ye who have wisdom. Bring forth my ship and conquer with ease. Deep neath the image lies my secret. Search and find in the pyramid I built. Each to the other is the keystone. Each the gateway that leads into life. Follow the key I leave behind me. Seek, and the doorway to life shall be thine. Seek thou in my pyramid, deep in the passage that ends in a wall. Use thou the key of the 7, and open to thee the pathway will fall. Now unto thee I have given my wisdom. Now unto thee I have given my way. Follow the pathway. Solve thou my secrets. Unto thee I have shown the way. Now that's quite the riddle, and according to some researchers, this is a disc-shaped flying vehicle with leg supports, wormhole technology, and a ship that emits colorful rays of light. Speaking of light, you know, we are often fed a certain narrative, and then it's hard to see something for being anything else. For example, I know many of you have seen this image of what they call the Dandara light bulb. The ancient Egyptian light bulb, right? Now, mainstream scientists argue that this is just symbolism for something else. Others think it's a representation of an ancient light bulb. But what they don't tell you is what type of light bulb. This is actually what you call a Crookes tube for X-ray light. It's an X-ray machine. There are plenty of hidden secrets over there in Egypt, and there are strange happenings occurring over there right now. There was a brief news story last year about strange sounds being heard off the coast of Egypt, as well as in other places like Tripoli and Benghazi. People were actually blaming these sounds on whales, blue whales to be exact. And there are no blue whales in the Mediterranean. Maybe a humpback or a sperm whale. Blue whales? No. And even if it was a whale, I came across a clip of the sounds. And yeah, it does sound like a whale. If it was being murdered, listen to this. Now, if that's not a sound that gets you running, I don't know what is. My first thought would have been a leviathan. You would have seen nothing but my dust. There are a lot more things that I want to uncover. I believe it is important, if not crucial, that we understand what went down at these ancient sites, because it's like I stated before. Understanding what was going on in our ancient past can help us realize what is in store for us in the future. I encourage everyone to stay tuned in for more madness. Don't forget to visit WoodWardEntertainment.com. And until next time, folks, stay awake, stay aware, stay safe, and I'll talk to you all soon.